Yo, what's going on YouTube, and welcome to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forte. We're going to be taking a look at the Boston Bruins, as there have been rumors that they have been interested in the 22-year-old Finnish winger up in Winnipeg, Patrik Laine. We'll be taking a look at those rumors in this video. If you like what we're doing here at Goal Line Hockey and want to see the latest news around the NHL, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and a subscribe down below. Let's take a look at the Boston Bruins. Alright, so before we get too far into this video, just want to give a couple of quick plugs to our Instagram and Twitter handles at goalline_hockey. Links will be in the description down below as well as throughout this video. Alright, so with that out of the way, let's take a look at the Boston Bruins as General Manager Don Sweeney is looking to make a big move this offseason. After losing guys like Torrey Krug, probably not being able to re-sign Jake DeBrusk, the Boston Bruins are looking to go in a different direction as they are looking up north in Winnipeg as the 22-year-old Finnish winger Patrik Laine is available, and there have been talks over the past couple of months that the Boston Bruins are looking to add a piece, and Patrik Laine could fill that void moving forward for the Boston Bruins. Alright, so let's take a look at Laine's numbers in his NHL career. So he's played in 305 NHL games in his NHL career. He has 247 points, 109 goals, 109 assists, 138 goals in his NHL career. Now, we've heard that the Winnipeg Jets were willing to trade him last season before his restricted free agency situation, and he will be coming up on that again next year. So it seems like this relationship is just tarnished. The former Finnish native, he's looking for a new destination, and 6'5", 206 pounds, right winger. He has the potential to really fit in well with this Boston Bruins team. He's a goal scorer, and I think the Bruins are just looking for a different face in their organization, and Patrik Laine could definitely do that for the Boston Bruins, considering they've had a pretty quiet offseason. They really have not done that much at all, really. Don Sweeney has been very quiet with the Bruins team so far. The last trade he made was back in October, for 7th round picks. That's really all he's been doing. He made that Danton Heinen trade at the trade deadline. And besides that, he has been very quiet in terms of moves for the Boston Bruins. So, and then it brings up the question, well, where would a guy like Patrik Laine fit in this organization? That's a good question. So we'll be looking at that right now. Looking at the Bruins lineup right now, you have the perfection line. You have Marchand, Bergeron, and Pasternak. No question, that will probably not be changing with Patrik Laine. But then the second line gets interesting because you have Jake DeBrusk, David Krejci, and Ondrej Kase. Now, let's just say in this deal, which we'll be making a mock trade later in this video, let's just say DeBrusk goes to the Winnipeg Jets, right? Because if you sign Laine, you're not going to have the money to bring it back Jake DeBrusk. So DeBrusk, his slot gets moved. So now you've got Patrik Laine, David Krejci centering that line, and Ondrej Kase. So you've got two Finnish guys. You've got Kase and Laine. Look at that. So you have a Finnish line. Krejci, we'll just pretend he's Finnish, so it's the Finnish line. So you've got Laine, Krejci, and Kase. That's a pretty solid second line for the Boston Bruins. Is it an upgrade losing DeBrusk? I don't necessarily agree with that, but if the Bruins are looking at it long term because they're looking at cap situations and Laine just being a different face in the organization, that's what they have to do, right? And then you look at the third line, you've got Bjork, Charlie Coyle, and Craig Smith, who they acquired in free agency. So, all right, so the Bruins did something. They did bring in Craig Smith, and I think that was actually a pretty solid addition. A little bit expensive, yes, but I think it was worthwhile for the Bruins. And then you've got Nick Ritchie, Sean Kuraly, and Chris Wagner on that fourth line. Kind of seeing what they did, they're creating an identity line, kind of like what we saw with the Islanders with Martin, Cizikas, and Cal Clutterbuck. So Ritchie, Kuraly, and Wagner, that's pretty much your prototypical fourth line, creating that identity line. And then the defense, you have Jeremy Lauzon and Charlie McAvoy as your top pairing. Matt Grzelcyk, Brandon Carlo, your second pair. And we're going to talk about Carlo in a minute. And then you've got John Moore and Connor Clifton as your third pairing on the Boston Bruins. So there's a couple things. The one thing that we're looking at is, well, what do they have to trade, right? Because if you're going to get Patrik Laine, it's not going to come cheap from the Winnipeg Jets. The Winnipeg Jets want something in return. Now they've already got their their third line center in Paul Stastny from the Vegas Golden Knights, so they don't really need that. So what else do they need? That's a good question. So looking at Winnipeg, the big thing that Winnipeg really needs if they lose Patrik Laine in a trade is they've got pretty solid forward depth. Now, if you add Jake DeBrusk back in the trade, I think it's just a 1-for-1. And honestly, Winnipeg's probably going to get other assets other than DeBrusk in a trade. Because you have Kyle Connor, Mark Scheifele, and Blake Wheeler as your top line. Then you have Nikolai Ehlers, Paul Stastny, and Patrik Laine. So if you put Jake DeBrusk in there with Ehlers and Stastny, that's a pretty solid second line, I would say. And it's going to come in cheaper. And a guy like Laine, who has not wanted to be in Winnipeg anyway, seems like a mutual agreement, and it ends up being fine. And then your bottom six, you have Kopp, Lowry, and Appleton on the third line. And then your fourth line, Perreault, Thompson, and Jack Roslovic. So that's not too bad. But then you look at defense, and that's where maybe the Winnipeg Jets general manager, Kevin Cheveldayoff, maybe considers, maybe we pick up a defenseman from the Boston Bruins. So you've got Josh Morrissey and Dylan DeMello. Now, I'm going to be honest, Dylan DeMello is not a top four defenseman, especially on the top pair. So, honestly, I'd rather see Morrissey and Pionk. But you've got, on the second pair, you have Boyu and Pionk. All right? So, definitely needs an upgrade there. All right? So, keep that in mind. And then you have Derek Forbort from the LA Kings and Tucker Pullman. Yikes. So they do need help on defense. So that's something to keep in mind. So it's either the really what Cheveldayoff has to decide. Does he have a player that can jump into the lineup this season for their forward group? And I already have the answer to that because I think they do. I think they do. And that guy happens to be playing, and again, another Finnish guy. I really like what we've seen from, let me find him, Christian Vesalainen. Christian Vesalainen is 21 years old. He played in the NHL a little bit. He's a former first-round pick, 24th overall back in 2017. He's been playing in the NHL a little bit. He's been up in Manitoba with the Manitoba Moose. But I really like what the potential is for Christian Vesalainen. He had 1 assist in his 5 games in the NHL. But let's be honest, he's got the potential to become a decent player. And I think if Winnipeg wants to slot him into that top 6 next season, he's still on his ELC, so he's coming in very cheap compared to even a Jake DeBrusk. So now you could kill 2 birds with 1 stone. So now you have a spot in the lineup for Vesalainen, and then it allows you to pick up a defenseman. So we're going to look at the cap space. The Bruins have a little over $7 million in cap space going into next season. And you have to wonder, the guys that they have on the trade block are Jake DeBrusk, Brandon Carlo, who has 1 year left on his contract. Remember that, because now you've got 1 year left on the contract. So if Winnipeg wants to sign him long term, they can do that after his quote-unquote, like his audition this season with the Bruins. Because the Bruins have plenty of guys that can jump in there. He's making $2.85 million this season. He's only 23 years old. So, the Winnipeg Jets, and he's a right shot defenseman. Like, these are all the things that Winnipeg has to be salivating over. Kevin Cheveldayoff has to be thinking, why have I not got this guy already? And then you've also got Jake DeBrusk, who is a restricted free agent this offseason. So you have to sign him this year. And then you have the first round pick of the Boston Bruins and possibly a top prospect. Now, there's a couple of things you could look at for the Bruins in terms of their prospects, because you've got guys like Trent Frederick, Oscar Steen, Cameron Hughes, Jack Studnicka, a couple of these guys, Zach Senyshyn. Do you really want a guy like him? Peter Cehlarik, Jaro Vakainen, Steven Kampfer, like Jakub Zboril. Like, these are the guys that you're probably looking at if you're the Winnipeg Jets. So what kind of trade would we see? I think we could see Patrik Laine go to the Boston Bruins for a 2021 first-round pick, all right, Brandon Carlo, and one of these young prospects. I'll just throw a name out there. I'll just say Jack Studnicka, 21-year-old. This guy's pretty solid. A former second-round pick in 2017. Let's just say, right, Jack Studnicka, Brandon Carlo, and a 2021 first-round pick in exchange for Patrik Laine. And that makes sense for the Winnipeg Jets, because now you move out a forward. You could bring in Christian Vesalainen, who in spades last season looked pretty solid. So he comes into the fold next season. Winnipeg saves cap space because now, yes, here's the thing, because now you've got to sign Jake DeBrusk, who's going to be around $5 to $6 million. Now, if you put that investment into Brandon Carlo next offseason, that's $5 or $6 million, and you keep Christian Vesalainen, Winnipeg, I have to say, Winnipeg actually wins in that regard. And they have $27 million in cap space right now before any trades or anything like that. So they end up saving more cap space. Now, you probably have to make a trade to get to the cap floor, but I don't think Winnipeg should be too concerned about that. And then for the Bruins, you're taking on Patrik Laine, and you have $7 million in cap space. Now, you don't have to worry about signing Jake DeBrusk, but this could be a loss end for the Boston Bruins. Is this the Boston Bruins' Don Sweeney making a move just to make a move, or is this because he really feels Patrik Laine is the right fit for the Boston Bruins? That's something we have to decipher, because now you're moving out a defenseman to bring in a forward, and you're trading a lot of draft picks and things like that for a guy who off the ice has been known to be a little bit of an issue. So I'd love to see what you guys think of the Boston Bruins in this situation. Don Sweeney seems very adamant on either, if it's not going to be Patrik Laine, I think they're going to look at Mike Hoffman. But I think salary cap is becoming an issue now, because I think Mike Hoffman could get $6 million on the market this season. We've seen, a guy like Taylor Hall get $8 million. If he signs a 1 or 2 year deal, he could get anywhere between $5 to $7 million in his next contract. So let me know, Winnipeg Jet fans, Boston Bruins fans around the NHL, let me know what you think of these rumors in the comment section down below. And if you like what we're doing here at Goal Line Hockey, want to see the latest news around the NHL, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and a subscribe down below. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.